Number 8. Plymouth Roadrunner. The 1970 Roadrunner arrived with a 383 cubic inch V8 as its standard engine, 335 horsepower, accessible muscle car pricing, and a performance argument the Chrysler B-Body delivered without requiring the $871.45 Hemi surcharge. The 426 Hemi that period advertising had made the Roadrunner's defining image appeared in fewer than 1% of Roadrunners built in 1970. The buyer who drove one off the Plymouth dealer's lot was driving a 383 in a vinyl interior on a bench seat with a column-shifted torque flight. Plymouth sold 44,599 Roadrunners in 1970. Through the first half of the decade, the nameplate continued as the stripped performance Plymouth midsize before emissions regulations and insurance surcharges eliminated the performance argument that had justified its existence. Number 7. Plymouth Scamp. The Scamp solved a specific problem: the buyer who needed a compact Plymouth but wanted 2 doors and a hardtop roofline. Plymouth introduced it for 1971 on the existing Valiant A-Body platform, with a fastback adjacent fixed roofline that gave it the visual energy the 4-door Valiant could not claim. Same slant 6, same small block V8 options, same dealer network, significantly different silhouette. The hardtop configuration communicated a degree of personal style at a compact price that the Valiant sedan did not. American buyers who wanted to arrive somewhere in a car that looked intentional rather than practical chose the Scamp. The Slant 6's durability traveled with it, the same engine reliability that Dart and Valiant owners had been documenting since 1960, now available in a package that the buyer's neighbor might actually stop to look at. Number 6. Plymouth Satellite. The Satellite outsold the Roadrunner every single year of the first half of the decade. That would surprise anyone who has spent time around Plymouth enthusiasts, because the Roadrunner collected the advertising and the magazine covers and the cultural memory. The Satellite collected the buyers. It was the mid-size Plymouth that showed up in the school pickup line and the supermarket lot, the B-Body that the American family chose when the Fury felt like too much car and the Valiant felt like too little room. Coupe, sedan, and station wagon configurations gave the Satellite a market coverage the Roadrunner never attempted. Its B-Body platform's durability record matched what Chrysler's A-Body had been building for a decade, and its station wagon variant gave Plymouth buyers the mid-size cargo solution the Valiant's smaller interior could not accommodate. Number 5. Plymouth Duster. The $2,313 price tag was the Duster's entire marketing campaign. Plymouth printed it on every advertisement and every dealership sign because the number required no additional argument. The Duster arrived for 1970 on the Valiant A-Body floor pan with a new fastback roofline that gave it energy the Valiant sedan could not claim, at a price the Volkswagen Beetle could not undercut at a domestic dealer. First-year production reached 217,192 units, a debut that confirmed the calculation. The 340 cubic inch V8 option gave the Duster performance that its base price had no right to suggest. Car and Driver documented the 340 Duster's quarter-mile times alongside cars that cost significantly more and found nothing to apologize for. But the majority of buyers chose the Slant 6, the engine that had been documenting its durability since 1959, and drove their $2,313 compact to mileages the European imports were not yet prepared to match. The Duster is at number 5 because 217,192 buyers in a single first year confirmed that Plymouth had found the combination the American compact buyer had been waiting for, and because the car that started as a number on a sign became, across its production run, one of the most commonly driven vehicles in the country. Number 4. Plymouth Valiant. In 1972, Plymouth sold approximately 330,000 Valiants. By 1973, the Valiant accounted for 43% of Plymouth's total production. Neither of those numbers appears in most conversations about the 1970s American automobile because the Valiant generated no controversy, no recalls, and no cultural moments worth documenting. It started every morning and accumulated miles, and the owners who drove them to 200,000 miles told their neighbors about it unprompted. The Slant Six that powered most Valiants of this period had been in continuous production since 1959, refined across 14 years of owner feedback from people who had asked it to start in Minnesota winters and idle through Phoenix summers without incident. The oil distribution geometry that Chrysler's engineers had inclined at 30 degrees off vertical proved over time to be the engineering decision that separated the Valiant's longevity record from every comparable domestic compact of the decade. The Valiant is at number 4 because 330,000 units in 1972 and 43% of Plymouth's output in 1973 are the two numbers that describe with complete precision what the American compact buyer chose when the only variable that mattered was whether the car would start on the coldest morning of the year. Number 3. Plymouth Fury. Plymouth built the Fury for the buyer who needed 6-passenger interior, trunk space for a family vacation's luggage, and the highway ride isolation that Chrysler's massive C-body full-size platform delivered across the sustained distances American families drove. It was not the most affordable Plymouth and not the most exciting. It was the one that fit the calculation, the car that the family with 3 children and a long driveway chose because the midsize was slightly insufficient and the compact was out of the question. Police agencies ordered the Fury in pursuit-rated configurations with the 440 cubic inch V8 throughout the decade, a fleet volume that made it a constant presence in American rearview mirrors, independent of its private sale numbers. The family buyer and the fleet procurement officer arrived at the same car through different logic and different budget lines, and the Fury's production record reflected both simultaneously. The Fury is at number 3 because it was the full-size Plymouth that carried the family. Not the aspiration, not the performance, not the story worth telling. Just the 6 people, their luggage, and the 10-hour drive that the full-size C-body platform made feel shorter than it was.
Number 2. Plymouth Grand Fury. The Grand Fury's most important buyer in the 1970s was not the family that purchased it from a dealer. It was the police department that ordered it in pursuit specification with the 440 cubic inch V8. Law enforcement agencies across the country evaluated the Grand Fury's C-body platform, the full-size Chrysler architecture that placed the engine, suspension geometry, and structural mass where sustained high-speed pursuit required them, and chose it as their default vehicle in numbers sufficient to make it a constant presence on American highways, independent of any civilian sales figure. The Grand Fury moved from the C-body to the B-body platform in 1977, a transition that the Mopar community and the law enforcement procurement community both noted for what it implied about sustained capability. But through the C-body years, the Grand Fury established itself as the pursuit Plymouth that American roads, American films, and American television had converted into the visual shorthand for a police car. Number 1. Plymouth Volare. Motor Trend awarded the 1976 Plymouth Volare its Car of the Year. The front fender panels began rusting through before the model year was finished. Chrysler issued a recall to replace them at no charge, an acknowledgement in sheet metal and labor costs that the stampings had left the factory without adequate corrosion protection. The Volare had been designed to replace both the Valiant and the Duster, which meant that every buyer who needed a compact Plymouth after 1975 had no alternative but to choose the car that Motor Trend had just honored and that the National Highway Safety Administration was already investigating. Recall campaigns followed, covering brakes, carburetor, and electrical systems, alongside the fender corrosion that had opened the record. Chrysler sold it in large numbers because the compact segment had no domestic alternative at the price point, and because buyers who needed a compact Plymouth had no other name to ask for.